Hi, my name is Thomas Harnett-Russell, and I am the Community Programs Manager for the Energy Assistance Program here in the state of Indiana. I think that for us, kind of the changes that happened during the height of the pandemic really kind of exposed a lot of opportunities for us. Now, I think here in Indiana, we're fortunate that we were able to pivot so easily to address kind of the new way that things were operating during the height of the pandemic. It just so happened that we had actually rolled out an online application system in September or October of 2019. So really, just a few months before the pandemic really hit full force, we had actually already rolled out that online application, so we were able to very easily, keep things running, and just kind of roll with the changes that we needed to roll with. Now that increase in funding, that became vital because what we were able to do as a result of that, we knew that the way people were using energy was changing. Specifically with that time frame, what we were looking at was the fact that overnight everything shut down, and all of a sudden people were like using were using more electricity. They were people were working from home. And when people were setting up their home offices, all of a sudden they are using electricity during the day, where maybe a lot of times, especially if it's only a single person household or a two-person household, they might both be out to work during the day, and all of a sudden now you have two people who are having set home offices and work from home. Maybe they have a programmable thermostat, and typically that would be set lower during the day when no one's home. All of a sudden they're home all day. And I know every state is kind of different, but so here in Indiana, if I'm recalling correctly, um, I want to say that for myself at IHCDA, um, I think it was like March 13th of 2020, when we kind of got the notice before we went home for the day, like, everyone take your computers with you, take anything that you have at your desk that you want with you, and you are not going to be reporting back to the office, for an undetermined amount of time. Like, basically wait for other instructions. Here's the VPN information. Log in from home on Monday morning. Um, and I think we started going back to the office in, I want to say, around May of 2021. So, I mean, that was over a year of just the entire pattern of how I use energy in my home changed. And in the case of my household, it's me and my wife. It's two of us. For entire families with kids, like, I can't even imagine what that would look like. In order to change along with that, thanks to that those additional rounds of funding that Congress awarded us, we were actually able to change the way we looked at benefits and what we would be able to cover with that. And so here in Indiana, what we did with that is we made a decision that we were going to use the American Rescue Plan um, funding in particular as a way to more meaningfully address arrearages that our applicants had kind of racked up. And so we actually rolled out a program that was a complete arrearage forgiveness program. So whereas usually, we would use the crisis funding to address those arrearages, and of course we'd have a per utility cap on that. But ARPA really, presented an opportunity to kind of give a more transformative benefit to our applicants who had the greatest need. And so what we were able to do is we were able um, to use that benefit, like I said, that additional funding to just however large that arrearage was. And I know we had some people, I think, with some $2,000, $3,000 arrearages build up in their electricity or their natural gas because during the pandemic, our governor did issue a statewide moratorium on all utility disconnections. And even once that expired, a lot of our investor-owned utilities voluntarily continued to suspend disconnections for a long time after that. So yeah, we had some people who had some really, really large arrearages, and we were able to just in one fell swoop wipe that out. And we wanted to be sure that we were still giving people a step up with that. So we made the decision to administer that actually where the arrearage was considered first. So say someone had a $3,000 arrearage, we would use the ARPA funds to pay that $3,000 arrearage, but then the regular funds would kick in with the benefit that they were due according to the matrix. So not only would we bring them to zero, but we'd actually put them ahead. So that was fantastic. Of course, the flip side of that, right, is when you have the come down from that. So we quickly were faced with we let me back up. We tried in our messaging to our approved applicants, knowing that this was a huge change. We tried in our messaging to let people know this is a one-time thing. This is based on the American Rescue Plan Act. There's a piece of legislation that we do not expect to be repeated. And this, quite frankly, with our goals of serving more people year over year and kind of maximizing the amount of people that we serve each year, we are not going to be able to continue anything like this. This is kind of a one-time shot. And so we definitely tried to communicate that as clearly and proactively as we can. I think that a lot of our applicants got that messaging. We definitely saw some who had been disappointed the next program year when they weren't able to get such a large benefit. But that was it was amazing to be able to do that and to see to kind of see that paradigm change, to see what it might look like if there were no disconnections due to unpaid bills or late bills. The way we work is we definitely we create policies. We receive the funding, we distribute the funding, but it is our subgrantee network who actually administers. They're the boots on the ground who are administering the program. It is in Indiana mostly community action agencies. Most of our subgrantees are community action agencies. We do have one in our largest county, Marion County, that's actually it's actually administered by a local nonprofit, not by a community action agency, but they do work in conjunction with a community action agency. But yeah, so we worked really hard on messaging with our subgrantee network, and we asked them to really make kind of that proactive communication and especially doing some enhanced casework part of their strategy going forward. In Indiana, we have had a framework that was called family development that kind of looks at evaluates according to a rubric a family's their self-sufficiency, and where there's where they're already showing self-sufficiency and where there's maybe some capacity for growth, or where they're really kind of deficient in that self-sufficiency. So it's a framework for really evaluating where the household might need additional resources, or where the household might need to just kind of realign their resources and make a a conscious effort to increase their self sufficiency. That is one of our best practices for subgrantees, is that whether you're doing direct casework or not, that you're providing these additional resources to your applicant pool, and that you're making sure that they're aware of what's out there. And then we have some agencies who do go above and beyond that and actually provide that actual hands-on family development casework, which is really kind of almost like having someone like who's, yes, there's in one sense they're providing kind of that navigation of what's available, but on the other hand they're acting almost as a counselor. It's very interactive, it's very hands-on, it's very intensive. So not all of our subgrantees are able to offer those services, but we're definitely trying to expand that. I think that one thing where we're trying to improve is just general outreach, visibility, awareness. We're definitely seeing. So one thing that was interesting during the pandemic, if I can just back up a bit, is in 2020 and 2021, I think we definitely saw an increase in applicants. And I think part of it is just due to the changing circumstances of the economy and people's income, as their jobs were impacted by stay-at-home orders and things like that. But then, to go back to the additional funding, we were able to give extra benefits because of the CARES Act funding. And what we saw after that is, I think because people got extra money that they don't normally get, we actually saw our numbers dip after that. And now we've actually seen them going up, where last year was our largest number of approved applicants in, I don't remember how many years. I want to say it was at least 10 years. So and one of the things that we are looking at internally and we're trying to get the data on is, so who are these extra applicants that we have, since we're seeing such a high number? And right now, our numbers from this year are outpacing where we were at this point last year. So is this a matter of people who are newly eligible? Is this a matter of people who were eligible before but maybe didn't take advantage of the program because they either didn't know about it, or they felt like that they could qualify but that they were able to make do, to get by, and they didn't want to necessarily take those resources away from someone else who might have been in worse shape than them, which is actually a sentiment I hear quite a bit from people. And I always try to kind of counter that and say, well, that's not really how the program works. We have a set amount of funding. We figure out the program, we figure out the benefits according to a matrix. If you don't apply for it and receive the benefit that you are eligible for, it's not like that benefit goes to someone else. It's probably going to stay on the table. And we would rather go into your account and help you achieve self-sufficiency. And then the other thing which I've encountered is it a matter of people haven't been applying before because there was a stigma around receiving the assistance. And, it's kind of like, I think whenever there is something where there's a stigma, whether that's a societal stigma or a personal internal stigma, there's an internal calculus, right? At what point does the risk of detrimental effect to me outweigh the effects of that stigma. And it's I think that for some people, maybe with you know and I do know that on a national level, the economy is showing good signs. It's in recovery. It's improving. But I think that there are definitely some people who are being left behind out of that recovery. And my working theory, which I don't have the data right now to support, but I think that we're seeing some of those people who are being left behind, and they're definitely feeling the effects of slipping through the cracks. I do get some of those stories, and I think that I think that one of the biggest things I hear with regards to this is kind of another kind of benefit that we introduced several years back that is funded out of LIHEAP. So it's sort of similar to we have an emergency furnace repair and replacement program. And so, it's obviously it is sort of similar to weatherization, but it's paid for completely out of LIHEAP. It doesn't interact with DOE funding at all, and it's designed to be because it's not under DOE purview. We're able to have a little bit more flexibility with how we do it. So, it's a program that is specifically for anyone who's in a household where the the primary heating source is not working or is only working intermittently, um, and we're able to go in, kind of do a quick assessment, figure out, is this able to be repaired or does it need to be replaced, um, and really kind of do it just kind of quick in and out. It avoids the household having to go through all the weatherization measures, which are great, but they can be very time consuming, and that wait list sometimes can be very long. Where you have someone who doesn't have heat and they're having to wait until the weatherization is available, or they might have uh, some household concerns, some physical concerns that might cause a deferral for weatherization. Um, and if those deferral reasons are minor enough where it is safe for a contractor to go in and repair or replace that heating source, then we're actually able to go in, at least get them heat, and then work with them with one of our other funding sources to help maybe resolve those reasons for their home being deferred, and then get them over into weatherization and really increase their energy efficiency. So, I've definitely heard from people who were just desperate and were, their heating wasn't working. It was below freezing, and in some of those cases, like, we were able to get in and get them, a furnace within a matter of days. And um it's those are definitely the cases where, when you get the call and the update call where they're letting you know what happened, and um it's usually they're expressing gratefulness to us. But for me, that's a big part of the reason why I'm doing this job. And it's good to see that we are able to make a difference. And yeah, so as grateful as they are for what we're able to provide with this funding, um, I'm grateful that they're able to. Um, I'm sorry. I'm grateful. I'm grateful to hear that, and to hear that update, and to know that we're out here doing good things, and that you know sometimes it's a tiny thing, but for some of these families that are applying, it can be a huge thing. And it's everything else aside. I think it's good for us to hear it. I think it's good for HHS to hear it. I think it's good for Congress to hear it.